Alright. That's the timer for the last video, so I'll set a timer for this video so I keep it on the time budget. I mentioned in the last video that you can, if you're a UMass student, you can get the Wall Street Journal for free. I think if you go to the Wall Street Journal page, the way it works, if you log in using your UMass credentials, it should let you in. A lot of people I find out don't know that they have free access to the New York Times online. Print would be more useful to me, but because it's free, I use it that way. So we got a couple three I want to get through right now of these larger topics of writing, things that you can do to improve your writing that should make a difference. Knowing your topic. This is, for me, the biggest one. I think it's the biggest thing that harms student writing. Students trying to write entire papers about topics that they haven't invested an adequate amount of time in understanding. This is one of the things that's like, duh, obvious. But you can't write about something you haven't really learned about. But it doesn't stop people from trying and trying. These papers are horrible, horribly hard to write, difficult. You can see the person suffering their way through it. Horribly difficult to deal with. You know, I know the student, they've read the abstract, they've read maybe read the conclusions, and they flip through a few pages and try to pick out a few lines that fit what they think they should be writing about. There's a world of difference between a paper written by a student who's really gotten into their topic, who's read their articles 3 or 4 times, and somebody who's just trying to wing it. Of course you're not a good writer when you're trying to wing it. No one is. We're all terrible when we're out of our depth. Again, it seems so obvious. It's why would you pay someone to teach you this? But it's true. If you don't know your topic, your paper is going to be awful. It's not going to get a good grade, and the only thing that may save you is very few other students bother to learn and their topic really well. So you're kind of in a neutral jungle where you're no worse than anyone else on a whole. But the students who do take the time and do work on the topic, the students who get the A-level grades, that's who it is. It takes investment of time. It takes investment of effort. And if you don't understand something, you should be asking about it. I'm always surprised every semester I say, if you don't understand something in your paper, talk to me. If I don't understand it, I'll find a faculty member who does. If it's out of my ken, I'll work hard and find you somebody who can explain it to you. But fewer students than I think should take advantage of that offer, and that's troubling to me. In any event, the lesson of it is if you want to be a better writer, learn about stuff and learn about the stuff you're writing about. If I had time to invest in writing a paper, give me 100 hours to write a big paper, I should probably be spending 60 or 70 of those hours reading things and taking notes from things, easily that much of that time, to get to a point where I know it well enough that I can write about it. Then I would spend the other 30% of the time, 30% of the time, maybe 20% of the time actually writing, probably 5% outlining and planning the writing, 20% writing, and 5% of the time proofreading. That's based on something like 100 hours. But the majority of my time would go into really learning the topic, taking notes about it, understanding connections, understanding everything like that. That's where the time is you invest as a writer. Another topic I'm going to get to today is editing for redundancies. This is something I do later in the semester when I teach this live, and I have online, I'll give you a document I prepared. It's 17 pages, I think, in a PDF of redundant terms, right? Like, don't write not honest. We have a word for that, dishonest. But there's other kinds of redundancies too, where you're using too many words to say what could be said in less. I've made a few redundancy notes on people's papers this round, where I've taken a lot of words and just compressed it down to even 1 or 2 sometimes. You very often can eliminate 50%, 40% of your words just by getting rid of redundancies and long-winded phrasing. Here's the thing though. You can't generally catch redundancies on your first pass. Editing is a 2-step process, and people don't understand this when you're self-editing. You edit through the first time looking for grammatical mistakes, syntax, semantic issues, punctuation, capitalization, all that crap. Get it cleaned up. Right? Think of it like you're in the woods and you're hiking along and you see this car, this hulk of an old car that's been overgrown. You pull back the weeds, you pull back the vines, right? And then you can see this, oh, it's a 55 Chevy, very nice, right? You couldn't see it before. With your papers, it's the same thing. You got to hack away all the vegetation that's cluttering up the picture. Then you can look at the actual frame of what you have there. You then go through a second editing process. You're looking for redundancies then. After that other stuff's out of the way, you can then see what's on the page. That's when you get rid of the redundancies. Now, that, again, is one of those things I say about this class when I'm teaching it live. There's more good information in this class than any other class you'll take at UMass. In terms of good, I mean useful. You'll continue to benefit from it down the road. It's a toolkit class. You'll use it all the time. But the thing about this knowledge is it's not like a date, like on this date and time this happened, or some relationship thing, or something like Rousseau over-romanticized primitive peoples or something like that, right? Maybe that's cocktail banter. You'll pull it out of your ass in 20 years or something. But this is actual practical knowledge you can use. But the thing is, if you're not paying attention or you're not looking for it, it'll go right past you. I just gave you a dynamite piece of information. You have to edit twice. Once to clear up the picayune grammar, syntax, punctuation, capitalization nonsense. Then go back, edit again, specifically looking for redundancies. The brain can't do too many things at once. You've got to just look for redundancies and train yourself to do that. You get much further that way. That's great information, but if you don't listen, if you're not hearing me, I hope you can hear me now because this is important, then you're not going to get anything out of this class. You're going to say in the end, I didn't learn much. Well, it wasn't that I didn't teach you something important, it's that you didn't hear it. All right, so I'm trying to write it really big here, like skywriting, like pay attention here. This is how you're supposed to write. Edit twice. Once for the mechanical stuff, go back for the redundancies. And also, you also need to be thinking about the bigger picture. Is my organization good? Are my transitions good? That kind of thing I'll get to later. But if you're not editing for redundancies in a separate pass, you're not going to catch them on your own. If you have somebody who's good, who's editing for you, you don't have to worry as much. But if you're editing your own stuff, it's going to take an extra pass to get the redundancies down. Anyway, you should take the PDF, I'll put it up online, print it out, have it on your desk, keep it inside of Garner, right? Keep it inside the cover of Garner. Look through it occasionally. You'll begin to recognize the cadences and so on. So how much time do I have left here? I'm hoping I have 4.5 minutes. Not great. I'll see what I can do. The classic style. Pinker, his book A Sense of Style, he talks about this style of writing. And I won't go into the kind of detail I go into the regular class where I take like 3 lectures introducing and explaining it, but it comes down to this. There's different styles of writing. Okay, there's a professional style, there's a metacritical style, which is a very obnoxious, overwritten, jargon-filled, postmodernist style of writing that some academics get into. In any event, there's technical writing. There's different kinds of writing. Pinker recommends, and I contend he's right, that we all try to write in the classic style, which is simply this. The writer has observed a truth. So they take the reader and orient them so that the reader has an unobstructed view of the truth. And then in a collegial fashion, in a conversational way, you discuss the truth with the reader. It's not overwrought, it's not filled with jargon, it's not filled with meta-discourse, you don't hedge it, you qualify, you give examples, you give definitions, and you do a lot also with visual imagery. The visual cortex of the brain is the most active and largest part of the brain most of the time. If you look around the room now and see all the little things you can see in the room, little tiny details, you see how much flex that part of the brain has. And that's what you appeal to in your writing in a couple of different ways. And I'll do a separate section in these little discussion pieces where I talk about using visual imagery in the text. Probably come up in the next video or the one after it, actually. But just keep that in mind. You have seen a truth as the writer. You orient the reader so they can view that truth with an unobstructed path of vision. You then discuss it with them in a collegial fashion, treating them as an equal, using visual imagery. There's no more simple way to distill it down. But if you're looking at your writing, that's what you should be looking for. Am I doing that or not? Keep in mind with writing, how do you know when writing is working or not? Writing is not working when the words that you're writing distract from the message that you're sending and get in the way. So when the reader has to stop following your train of thought and instead stops and has to say, wait, I don't understand this. I have to go back and read this again. I have to parse these words out carefully, unpack this sentence. When your words and the arrangement of your words gets in the way of the thought that you're trying to transmit to the reader. I mean, good writing is essentially telepathic, right? There's no interference between the thoughts in your head and what goes into your reader's head. It just gets implanted right there where it should be. But when the words that you're using become a stumbling block for the reader, that's when your writing is getting off course. And that's what the classic style helps you to avoid. Again, you have to understand that truth. It goes back to what I said earlier, and I think it was in this particular discussion where I talked about, no, the one before, I think, knowing your topic. I'm not sure what that one. Yeah, knowing your topic was this one. If you know your topic, you've seen this truth. If you can observe that truth, you can orient your reader towards it. And when I say orient, I mean using words. You give them an unobstructed view. You don't distract them with clutter. You discuss it with them in a conversational style, and they're treated as an equal. You're not in a higher place than them. You're not talking down to your reader. And nor are you apologizing to them, hedging. You don't have to overly go into meta discourse about why I'm writing this sort of thing. You just keep it simple. It really is a KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid thing. You just want to explain to the reader in using words that they don't have to trip over or fight their way through, like with a machete hacking through the woods trying to get to your point. Most people don't have the patience for that in this day and age. You're writing kind of, you need to be careful about that. Letting your words get in the way, because people don't have the attention span, and they don't have the time, more importantly. You orient them towards the truth, you explain it to them clearly, they come to understand it, you've explained it to them as an equal, and then you've done your job as a writer, and you've produced something worth reading. That's all the time I have for on this one right now. I'll do a couple more of these videos in the next few days, and they'll essentially give you the distilled substance of what the lectures came down to.